What's up, Broncos country? Welcome back inside the Centura Health Training Center for another episode of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones, and coming up on today's episode, we'll take a look at expectations for training camp, what players to keep your eye out on, and more. All that coming up. Joining me here inside the Broncos podcast studio for today's episode is Broncos fellow team reporter, Phil Milani. Phil, thanks for joining me on the show. It's been a while since we've been inside the studio together.
Yes, I'm in full summer mode here. You can tell on my shirt. Yeah, it's glowing on the camera. Yeah.
We both took some time off for vacations.
Yes, much needed. Yes.
Nice and refreshed, and ready for training camp.
Yeah.
It's about a week away. A week from today will be the first training camp practice.
That little month of break here after mini camp to the start of training camp always goes by too fast.
It does. It really does. I agree. The whole off season goes by too fast.
Yes. But there is a sort of an excitement, though. Like Sean Payton is here. There's a new direction for the Broncos, and hopefully things are heading in the right direction for the team.
Absolutely. Yeah, Phil, what are you most looking forward to for this year's camp?
Well, I think that like when the guys come back, there's a certain energy, around the building, around town. Like, hey, it's the start of football season. Fans are checking out practice.
Yeah.
I think that excitement always sort of builds some energy a little bit. And then, there's some like position groups that I think that, football wise, there's going to be some really intense competition, and I'm really interested to see what happens. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Russell Wilson, I think, just to see how he's working with Sean Payton, year 2 now in Denver, what things are going to be different with him. I think that it'll probably start there. But then also, hey, what's this wide receiving competition going to be like? There's so much talent in that room. Some really good players are not going to be wearing Broncos uniforms on game day. So looking forward to watching some of that, and then just seeing how the defense looks, with Vance Joseph in charge now.
Right.
What things are going to be different there. Frank Clark added into the mix. We haven't really
seen him yet.
We haven't had a chance to see him. So all kinds of things, are
a lot to look forward to.
It's exciting to get the first day here.
Definitely. Phil, you mentioned the receivers. Are there any other position groups that you're really going to keep your eye out for? Any position battles?
I definitely think receivers like the spot that everybody's going to be watching, just because I think you have Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Mims.
Right.
Those 4 I think are 100% locks. Then after that, there's going to be some question marks there, and there's some really good receivers. KJ Hamler is going to be working his way back out onto the field. Montrell Washington is going to be trying to fight for a spot. Kendall Hinton, the guys that Sean Payton, Marquez Callaway is going to be in the mix there. And then Jalen Virgil, Brandon Johnson, a couple of young guys from last year. Yeah, Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Right.
So
there's a lot of guys in that room.
Yeah, there's like a lot of players there. And, you would think that Mims is going to be able to do some of the special teams duties there. So maybe they'll keep like 6 guys there.
6 or 7, yeah.
So yeah, maybe 7. So that's a position definitely to watch. And then the other spot on the other side of the ball, I think safety. Obviously, Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties in the entire NFL. But what's that spot next to him? What does that look like? The Broncos waited a long time to bring Kareem Jackson back.
True.
Obviously, they brought him back for a reason. So keeping that in mind, that, hey, there's a veteran presence there. Yeah. His chemistry with Justin Simmons is so valuable. But also, hey, Caden Stearns. Heading into year 3, that it's sort of now or never for him.
Coming back from an injury.
He's coming back from an injury. So where is he at in his progression? Is he ready to be a starter there? So that's like one position I think that we'll have to see how that everything shakes out there too.
Yeah, definitely. I think 2, critical players to watch are wide receiver Tim Patrick and running back Javonte Williams.
Oh, my gosh.
As they return from their injuries. So I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how the Broncos, work them into drills, practices. I mean, even if they play in the preseason at all.
Yeah, it was so great seeing Javonte Williams out there during the offseason program, but he wasn't like going, all out in like team period and that kind of stuff. So how do they work him back? Do they put pads on him and let him get hit a little bit, just to get that mental barrier, to get over that? I think that he's going to have to.
That's big.
Yeah, he's going to have to do
mental
that at
barrier.
some point. So when is he going to be ready to do that? Tim Patrick, same thing, just getting out there, jumping up for one of those big balls, when you're doing a one-on-one drill,
right.
What is that going to be like for him? The Broncos were like so injured last year that it feels like there's almost like a whole new team coming back.
I agree.
Just like with Randy Gregory coming back from injury. We mentioned Caden Stearns. Lloyd Cushenberry had a big injury. Garrett Bowles. So I think that like the offensive line is going to look totally revamped. How do they start meshing together?
Right.
For them, I think like the starting five look really good. What does the depth look behind them? There's just a lot of things like that. After the first couple of days of camp where all eyes are on Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, the big guys. Then you kind of get into, hey, what's going on with this backup position? What's going on here and there? So, it's just this time of year where you get to really know what kind of team is coming together.
And we'll see, a lot of our free agents. Really, for the first time, I mean, we saw them in OTAs, but for guys like, Ben Powers, Mike McGlinchey, Zach Allen, with pads on, really to see, how physical they can be.
How physical they can be, and then also just what is Sean Payton going to do with these guys, It seems like he's going to be pretty old school, at least with the approach that he's taking in the offseason program. So what does that mean for training camp? And, how much of a contrast is that going to be to what happened last year where a lot of guys had vet days, the preseason starters didn't play. Practices were pretty short. There weren't one-on-one, 7-on-7, any of that kind of stuff. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they, how hard he pushes them.
Definitely going to be a different vibe this year for sure.
Totally. Yeah. So you got to get them ready for the season. Our friend Steve Atwater always talks about, hey, you got to train your body to get ready to play football, and the collisions, and mentally it's not natural for guys to just run into each other full speed and to hit each other. So you kind of have to work your way up into that.
Right. Which is why we have the preseason.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll see what happens.
Well, Phil, we mentioned, some of the bigger names there, but are there any players who kind of are flying under the radar that you think Broncos fans should be on the lookout for training camp?
Ooh, interesting. I do think that Caden Stearns is a guy that maybe people don't quite know a ton about.
Definitely.
Maybe, hey, what does Damari Mathis look like coming back, playing on the other side of Pat Surtain? He's going to get picked on a lot, because guys are going to want to stay away from Pat Surtain. How does he come back in year two? What does that look like? I think Drew Sanders is a rookie that people have been very excited about, but he got a little dinged up during the offseason program. How is he going to be used on defense? Sean Payton called him a pressure player. Interested to see just sort of he might be a guy who bursts onto the scene a little bit. So, definitely a guy to pay attention to. Samaje Perine, the backup running back, depending on what Javonte Williams is able to do, Perine might be playing a lot early on. So,
for sure.
He's a guy who maybe Broncos fans don't know too much about. So, pay attention there. And then, I think Greg Dulcich is another guy. We always talk about him, but how does he look in year two too? Is he ready to take a jump?
He's going to be a key player in this offense.
Yeah, that joker type of player. Sean Payton said, how do they use him? What is he able to do? Is he going to be able to stay healthy?
Right.
He had those hamstrings last year. Is he going to be good to go? So just a lot of guys to just sort of pay attention to.
A lot of new faces this year too.
Yeah,
for sure.
So,
a lot of new faces that Broncos fans will have to get to know out here.
But I do think that it starts with Russell Wilson. I mean, he's the main guy that, people are going to come out here and be like, okay, is he back to being Russell Wilson? And, that's where it all starts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What year is this for you, Phil?
This is going to be my 11th training camp.
11th training camp.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm an old hat now.
No.
Yeah. But, every year, the start of training camp, there's an energy, like I mentioned.
It always
and
feels
so,
like going back to school. For me,
exactly.
That
so
same energy.
Yes. So I think that it gets you going again. even though right now, a week away, you're sort of just like, ooh.
I know.
It's sort of daunting knowing
it is daunting coming.
Yeah, what lies ahead. But it's also very exciting.
It is. So. Well, Broncos fans, don't forget that tickets are required for entry for this year. So make sure to check those out on denverbroncos.com to see if you can get tickets. And we can't wait to see you guys all tickets.
There. Yeah, exactly. Especially for back to football, back together Saturday.
Back together weekend.
Yeah.
I feel like they change the name of that every year.
I know, but I do think that's going to be exciting. That first Saturday at camp, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So you'll want to be there. And the Broncos are releasing their new alternate helmets next week as well. So lots to look forward to. That's a big one. That is. Well, Phil, thanks for joining the show today. Thanks, Sid. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll meet you right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube next week for the start of training camp. See you all then.